So the Mexican national anthem, getting things underway here. But first of all, as we focus on the races that are coming up here, let's take a look back at what happened on Saturday and the story of qualifying.
The tension mounted before qualifying at the Autódromo Hermanos Rodriguez. Those who thought Germany would be off the pace without their star Nico Hülkenberg were to be disappointed.
Christian Vittoris, how's he going to do? He goes second. What a great first effort.
Malaysia and the experienced Alex Young laid down the law, becoming the only car to get into the 126s. And Great Britain's driver Ollie Jarvis put his qualifying fears to bed and netted second place so far.
Great first effort by Ollie Jarvis for Team Great Britain.
Session 2 saw more surprises. New Zealand, who had a bad first run, didn't get any better this time either. Meanwhile, Australia's new boy Ian Dyke put his country up to fourth. But again, success went east and to Alex Young, with Germany taking back the second spot from Great Britain. A red flag for a Pakistan spin meant Session 3 was halted early on. Great Britain made P2 theirs despite a strong run from Team Germany. Malaysia continued to dominate in stunning style, but Mexico laid down their claim with a great run from local hero Salvador Duran.
He's up to 8th, good effort.
And in the final run, Mexico went up to 4th. Alex Young was supreme in all sessions, claiming pole, and the battle for the second spot was taken by Germany, with Ollie Jarvis and Great Britain having to settle for 3rd.
So that was the story of qualifying, and that's how Alex Young took pole position for Malaysia. And as we came in this morning, John, ready for the sprint race, it did look as though Malaysia were going to have the edge, but there were plenty of things to watch out for from behind.
Yes, there's always going to be a problem. This is the very longest pit straight in A1GP circuits we visit, 1.1 kilometers in length, and it's inevitable that you're going to see some action. It's also dusty on the right-hand side of the track going down into turn 1, so keep an eye on people getting lopsided by that dust.
So let's see what happened earlier today. We've got beautiful weather conditions in preparation for the sprint race, and host nation Mexico taking A1 to heart. But Alex Young starting from pole position in great shape, second on the grid. Team Germany still making some late changes. Starting 3rd is Oliver Jarvis for Team Great Britain. I wonder if he can move up from there. But the front row of the grid then is Malaysia on pole, Germany in second place with Great Britain and Mexico directly behind. On row 3 it's France and Portugal, and then Brazil and the United States closest to their home races here in Mexico. On row 5 it's Australia and Italy. On row 6 it's South Africa and China. And then on row 7 Indonesia with New Zealand. Very much a fancied runner, but starting a long way down. 15th and 16th, the Czech Republic and the Netherlands, and then 17th for India, just ahead of Switzerland. We've got Canada and Ireland back on row number 10, and at the back it's Lebanon 21st and Pakistan starting 22nd. That's how they line up for the sprint race. Here we go. We're all set for the start of the sprint race here at the Autódromo Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico City. The 9th event of this second season of A1GP World Cup of Motorsport sees Malaysia and Germany on the front row together. It'll be Great Britain and Mexico pushing them when they get this race underway. We're waiting now for them all to take position. Watch for the lights to go out and the race will be underway. Away we go. Malaysia makes a breathtaking start. Great Britain's up into second place. Germany is squeezed. Oh, we've got
Brazil's hit Germany. Brazil got tipped from behind and has hit Germany. Cars all over the place as we come down into turn 1. I thought there would be an incident, but not here. Literally, 400 metres after the start of the race. That's actually spread the field out.
And amazingly, most of the other cars managed to miss that right in the middle of the grid. Problems for Mexico. Mexico involved in that. Can you believe it? This happened last year to Mexico in Monterrey on home turf, and it's happened again.
Safety car.
Yeah, safety car, no surprise. Malaysia leads from Great Britain, France, Portugal. South Africa has come up to 5th with Australia in 6th. But, John, that could have been very frightening.
Well, it was. I mean, how Brazil and Germany got together. Somebody I saw clipped the rear because Brazil got a good start. And a car from behind clipped Brazil. That tipped them sideways and caught the rear of Germany. So, well, you know, it was always going to be into the first corner that would be a problem with traffic getting together. I never anticipated it would almost be at the end of the pit lane. As you see, Christian Vatoros walks back. He's totally uninjured. The car is only very lightly damaged. But what a switch of fortunes. Germany could have wrapped this championship up even in the sprint race. Now they will start along with Brazil at the back of the field.
Yeah, that is a real shock for Germany after all the success that they've had in A1GP. The youngster who wasn't away very quickly, ending up the innocent victim. So they're coming around to see the safety car signs and be picked up, presumably. No, it isn't out.
It was just on standby, in fact. But look, all the bodywork. Look at the bodywork in the middle of the racetrack. That's carbon fibre bodywork. There will be shards of that carbon fibre being distributed as cars come down. That is not a good situation for cars with racing
France
tyres.
gone wide. He's going to be passed by Portugal, and France is going to lose third place there. Yep, Portugal's taken third. France back to fourth with South Africa and Australia behind.
That's the penalty of getting dirty tyres. You run one wheel off the line. There you can see bits of bodywork even down into turn 4. One wheel off the line.
South Africa. Oh, he's gone too wide. South Africa's tried to make the move. Hasn't worked. Now he's lost the place to Australia.
Well, he just dived back in. He just took back what he'd lost. Look, diving down the inside. You cannot go offline. Team USA trying to get up the inside. And we've got China now trying to get involved in the act as well.
China running in 8th place. Indonesia in 9th. Then it's Italy, New Zealand and Mexico in the pits with the repairs being made. And it's just a new front wing. And he's sent on his way again. Not too much damage, hopefully, to the Mexican car. But it does mean he's down in 18th position. Lebanon has also been into the pits. And he's having to wait for the light at the end of the pit lane.
Well, there's 2 cars in the pit lane. One, Mexico is one. We don't know why he's being held because the red light is on at the end. There's a red and a green. So now the green has been, and that was Lebanon, I think, came in. So 2 cars for no reason. We don't know why Lebanon, if they got involved, they may run over some of that debris on the main straight, the area of the racetrack where now seeing the leaders come into. Look at the gap, second to third. It's over nearly 5 seconds.
So a massive advantage for Malaysia and Great Britain, still driving through the debris on the main straight there. And you can see France and Australia now. This is the race. I don't know what's happened to Portugal. Portugal's disappeared. This is the battle that's going on for third again. So Portugal has dropped down the order, and now France and Australia for third.
France again in that sequence has spun this time. So this time for France, they're not going to get. He had a problem the previous lap in turn 1. Can't understand why. It's a very straightforward corner, but this time he's done it properly. There we see the Brazil car. It's been finally brought back into the pit, so a brand new nose and wing will be put on that car, but not for this sprint race.
Another car.
And this is Portugal, I believe, going out. So it is Portugal, Alvaro Perant. He came in. I suspect, likewise, he has probably run over some of the bodywork that's on this main straight. There's a substantial part of that nose to the right of that picture as we just leave the pit lane.
Malaysia continues to lead this race, lapping a car, Lebanon, that's come out of the pits. Great Britain still running in 2nd position. France out of it now with that spin. So that's brought Australia up into 3rd place and South Africa into 4th position. And South Africa started 11th on the grid. Meanwhile, New Zealand has gained as well. New Zealand's up to 9th place.
Well, it's been an amazing start to this race. It's given a huge advantage to these two, with Malaysia leading Team GBR in 2nd place. The gap was 5.2 seconds to France. France have now outed Australia in 3rd place, and it's going to be nearer to 8 seconds by the time Australia come through in that third. Well, 6.1 seconds.
So, Malaysia, Great Britain, Australia with Ian Dyke making his debut, running brilliantly for the Aussies, and South Africa as well. And it's an interesting rivalry, isn't it? Australia and South Africa, they've been at it in the cricket. They could be at it in A1GP. Behind them, we've got to watch out for USA and China. Look at this lot.
3 cars trying to get into one, into turn 1. They all fall into line. They get through it cleanly. But that's the benefit of getting the slipstream coming down this long, long straight. But, of course, you've got to get on the brakes and don't overshoot the corner. France did it wrong twice. The second time they paid the penalty.
So New Zealand now running in 8th place. So he is making progress. So are the Netherlands. Netherlands were well down on the grid. They're now in 10th. Just had news from the pits, John, that it was a puncture caused by debris, as you suspected, for Team Portugal. And that's what caused him to come in the pit lane in 10th place, riding with the Netherlands. Tucked in behind the Black Beauty of New Zealand. And Italy's in around that group as well. So we've got to watch out for that. Then we've got the Czech Republic, Switzerland behind, and India and Canada. They're all tucked in behind there as well.
Yellow flag at turn 2, but we're missing. We've got 19 cars running. We don't see Ireland anywhere, and we haven't seen much of Ireland other than at the start.
Bit of understeer and then oversteer from the Black Beauty there ahead of. Look at that again, a slide from the New Zealand car.
That was the problem they had throughout qualifying. They just couldn't get any grip from the car, and no wonder why people running off track. There we see Jean-Carl Vernet running away from his car. That's the Team France. Look at into turn 14. New Zealand just managing to stay ahead.
I tell you who's just got fastest lap though, and it's Team Mexico. Mexico, who had that problem earlier and is now running ahead of the race leader on the road, but of course virtually a lap down. Mexico's just got fastest lap.
But watch the Netherlands at Render van der Zender's coming up to try and move against New Zealand. He's going to go down the inside. He's got alongside. He's got the corner. Now the lock-up from New Zealand. Now I don't know why Johnny Reid's having a problem locking up. He's on the clean side of the track.
He must have a puncture.
He may have a puncture indeed. Tries to get back in, but he's lost 3 positions in one corner and he's slowing down. He's got a problem.
So he's probably picked up a puncture from debris as well, just like Portugal, and that is tragic luck for New Zealand. Germany's gone out of this race. It was a huge opportunity to try and close the points gap.
That's the right front tyre, the right front. That's why he was locking up, because the car was utterly imbalanced. Let's look at the start again.
Well, what happened? Look in the middle part of the grid, not too far down, because Germany was slow away, but ended up getting caught in it.
Yeah, but this yellow, blue and green car, that was Brazil. They had a great start. Somebody tipped the back of Brazil. I can't say
Mexico, I think.
It might well have been Mexico. In fact, there's Mexico going left to right. There's the Brazil car. And when is the contact going to come? There it is. Mexico straight into Germany. So Salvador Duran is totally responsible for that incident, in my opinion.
He was sandwiched, wasn't he? There was a car on either side. I guess he should have backed off a bit.
Well, that's the point. Who's going to give up first? But there you can see, oh, look at that. I mean, that was straight over. I think that was Perrent, went straight over that. So clearly you can see the carbon fibre shards that immediately would have been dispersed over the racetrack. And Team Brazil, well, they managed to get back to the pits with a very wounded car.
So really disappointing for Germany, who was totally innocent in that. They were just running ahead of it. Look at Malaysia sliding around. Malaysia ahead of Great Britain. Australia in third place. South Africa still in fourth. United States in fifth, as New Zealand now heading back into the pits to see if they can change that tyre and get him back out. It's still worth running, of course, because wherever you finish this sprint race does determine your starting position for the feature.
Just under 11 minutes or 7 laps, whichever comes the sooner. We thought we were going to see a safety car deployed after that first, well, but not even the first straight incident. There you can see the right front tyre on the Team New Zealand absolutely shredded as a consequence of having to do the best part of 2.75 miles around this racetrack. A very hot racetrack, track temperature much higher than the ambient. It was at 31 degrees and the 31 track 18 ambient, but again, they didn't even bother to repair that part of their bodywork, just get him back out again.
That's right, so he's on his way with a new front tyre, but obviously way down the order now, and he will rejoin, but just hope to get a place or two in the meantime. We're watching India going through there in 11th, so India's gained a lot of places as a result of other people's problems. They're ahead of the Czech Republic and Canada, just running wide, a few cars there out of turn 13. Netherlands you're looking at in 9th place with Switzerland, Marcel Fassler. Both these cars, these drivers making their debuts as race drivers in A1GP.
You know, they don't help themselves a lot coming out of turn 13 when they let the car run so wide. I know they do it to free the car up to help the exit speed, but by kicking up so much dust and dirt, all you're doing is putting more dust and dirt onto the racetrack. That gets into the tread surface of the tyre, which results in less grip. Italy down the inside. That's a pass. It is a pass
to 7th place.
That's Indonesia down and Italy up.
So a good move from Enrico Tococello. Its fastest car on track is still Mexico, though. So Mexico, despite that incident earlier and having to change the nose on the car, Salvador Duran is the fastest car out there. South Africa in 4th place, and look how close USA is in 5th position.
Well, that's a lot of pressure coming from Jonathan Somerton on Adrian Zaug for South Africa. So both drivers, that's the battle for the top 6 with USA in 5th, South Africa 4th. China is the 6th of those 3 cars, and they're all covered by a little over 2 seconds.
This is an exciting one to watch because South Africa, Adrian Zaug, who was such a star at Zandvoort at the start of the year, still now getting over a recent operation on his arms, which might affect his strength. Not so much in this sprint race. It's a shorter race. He should be fit for this one. Jonathan Summit, and Zaug quite wide, but that's where we see them all running out to the edge of the track.
Yeah, but as I say, they do it regularly. They just throw more dirt onto the track, and that again puts dirt into your tyres. You come up to turn 14 as the final long right-hand corner onto the main straight, and you just find the car hasn't got quite the same level of grip that it had before. I'm not surprised.
Somerton looked pretty good for USA through Pedal Tada, the long right-hander on to start-finish. Malaysia there, leader. Great Britain running in a strong 2nd place. There is Australia, fantastic 3rd place so far for Ian Dyke. Then it's this battle for 4th, South Africa versus the United States. China running competitively in 6th, Italy 7th, Indonesia in 8th, Netherlands in 9th, and then behind the Netherlands it's Switzerland, India, Czech Republic and Canada.
Well, pretty much everybody's been on the power boost button, but Malaysia and Great Britain have got one shot apiece. Australia's got none, South Africa's got none, and interestingly, the USA's got two, so keep an eye on Jonathan Somerton. He will have that opportunity with 5 laps to go, or 7.5 minutes, as we look at Christian Vittoris in the pit, to use that power boost button to try and get one position, take it away from South Africa for 4th place.
Well, it's our first opportunity to really draw breath and try and analyse what's going on now in this race. Just 5 laps to go, and there's no doubt that Malaysia and Great Britain have stolen the march on everybody else, but that Australia has picked its way through all the debris and problems that others have suffered, and Ian Dykes put in a strong performance. In fact, his last lap for Australia was quicker than both Malaysia and Great Britain ahead of him. So Australia putting in some impressive lap times. Mexico's still the fastest car on circuit, though. A lap down. There's Junqueira. Well, wry look on his face. I suppose he's been through all this many times.
Oh, yes, he knows what it's like to get tipped from behind by a car, and it wasn't. Junqueira was completely the innocent victim of that incident. There we see the power boost. You've got 2 with the USA. They're running directly behind South Africa. There's South Africa coming into view, and right under his rear wing should be USA. But has he got enough speed? He's not close enough behind. He can't make any impression.
Bit further back, you've got India and then Czech Republic. That's Jarek Yanis driving for the Czech team this weekend. Behind them, you'll see Canada and Pakistan somewhat off in the distance. Little lock-up there for Jarek Yanis, but so far so good. Back on board with Jonathan Somerton for Team USA.
Yeah, down into turn 4. No use of power boost here. All you try to do is keep in position. Look at South Africa car moving around. It doesn't look as stable. The USA car looks to me to be the slightly better car in this sequence of the circuit. This is sector 2, and you're now into the very technical part. The switchbacks left to right. It's bumpy in here. Just watch the hand movement. That's not his hands moving. That's the effect coming through the wheels, through the steering column, into the steering wheel.
There you can see he's fighting it quite hard, and now the speed begins to build up through these S-bends, one after another after another. Watch the throttle trace on and off the power.
Now you get a bit of back end oversteer, now flat out through turn 13. Again, Zaug way off the track, kicks up that dust in the face of Jonathan Somerton for the Team USA.
But Zaug just gets away at the exit of the S's there. Now through Peraltada, this long right-hander. This is where Somerton seems to have a pretty stable car. Look, just seems to close in a little bit.
I think he did close up on the exit of the corner, but of course he hasn't got quite the reduction of the gap to South Africa as they come onto the main straight. If it's going to happen, it'll be towards the end of the straight. He's still got those 2 power boosts available, but he's not close enough to take advantage of it and get that extra 30 horsepower that would draw him up to the tail of South Africa's car.
Watch those curbs. They do not want to run onto those big, steeply raked curves. They could do some damage to the car, but they've all been pretty sensible about that. Malaysia continues to lead. Last time around, very similar lap times from both Malaysia and Great Britain. I think Ollie Jarvis will be very satisfied if he stays where he is right now, unless Malaysia makes a mistake. I think he'll settle for second. It'll put him in great shape for the feature race.
I would think he's very content with where I think the first 2, in fact, have decided we'll take the front row grid for the feature race. There's no point in us trying to race each other and possibly taking each other out.
Very quick laps just been set on that new front tyre by New Zealand, John. New Zealand, they may be down in 16th place, but he's just done a 1:27.
Yes, unfortunately that pit stop for a tyre has meant that the good work that Johnny Reid was doing, and he was the beneficiary along with a number of other nations with that literally 200-metre start shunt, which took out, 4 cars initially and left a lot of debris in the racetrack. And it was that debris, the carbon fibre from the bodywork that was shredded in the incident, that has cut down some of these tyres. And it's just sod's law as to whether you're the driver that gets the cut or you're not.
So 2 laps to go. Malaysia and Great Britain first and second. Australia in a somewhat lonely third, but I'm sure Ian Dyke will be delighted. He's going to get a podium on his first ever race in A1GP. He's not the first to do that, but it's still a tremendous achievement. And really, this is the closest battle for 4th place. You're watching the car ahead of South Africa with USA right behind.
Well, 2 laps to go, and we're going to see this race run its full distance. So Jonathan Somerton has got this lap and then one more, and that will be his last chance. So getting into turn 1 is going to be the area of the racetrack. He needs to work hard in turn 14. That's the corner that leads onto the main straight. But of course, getting close behind another car has a bearing on the aerodynamics. So it's always a balance. Can I get close, or how can I get the run? Which of the 2 is going to be?
Let's bear in mind, John, that those guys on the American team worked very hard between Durban and this race to completely rebuild the car onto a different tub, different engine. Actually, they had to do an engine change again this weekend. Those guys have worked extremely hard, but this is going to reward their efforts, because even if he doesn't get past South Africa, 5th place would be Jonathan Somerton's best finish, and it's only the second time he's raced in A1GP.
Well, I mean, a 3rd grid start would be very good indeed for Team USA, because it puts them in the area of the grid where they're going to hopefully be clear of problems. But ironically, the problems that we saw at the start of this race all came very much towards the front of the grid rather than the middle or the tail where it normally. Look at Somerton using the pit lane entrance to try and maximise the grip and speed off that final turn, and he may well have picked up a little bit of speed because he is closer at this part of the straight. There's still the best part of half of a kilometre to go. Push the button, he's on it right now.
So he's on power boost. Can he get a little bit more performance from the car and challenge for 4th in the hall? Zaug is going to cover the inside. Sensible driving from South Africa. Can America take advantage? No, not quite. So unless Zaug makes a mistake, it's going to be tough for USA to pass.
And remember, you're allowed to make one move from left to right, right to left, whatever. But once you've made that move, you are not permitted to then cut back again to make a second blocking attempt. Adrian Zaug did what he was allowed to do. He got the corner. He denied USA the opportunity to overtake.
We're on the final lap, so this is the big battle. But up front, remember, Malaysia looks set for their 3rd victory of this second season of A1GP, and to kickstart, if you like, their championship challenge once again, because they've been lacking points on a consistent basis just recently. But this is fun to watch. Jonathan Somerton versus Adrian Zaug, USA versus South Africa.
Just look, you can see the USA always slightly behind South Africa getting on the power. That's just quite simply that South Africa is that little bit further down the road.
So Team Malaysia are coming into Pitaltada for the final time in the sprint race here in Mexico City, and the victory is going to go to Alex Young, to Team Malaysia. A beautifully driven race after a superb qualifying session yesterday. Great Britain takes 2nd place, having started 3rd and having avoided the incident at the start of this race, and 3rd place goes to the man making his debut in A1GP for Australia, Ian Dyke. So Australia scoring points for the first time in this second half of the A1 season. Behind them, it's South Africa, who finished ahead of USA, then China, Italy, Indonesia, Netherlands and Switzerland. Well, it's great to see the support for Alex Young's victory here. The Team Malaysia flag, the Malaysia flag being waved in the grandstands. Great Britain, a very strong 2nd place, but Alex Young unheaded throughout that. Finishing in 3rd, Australia, but 4th place went to South Africa there, holding off the United States. Fastest lap, interestingly, went to Mexico. They had the incident earlier, had to change the nose cone, and Malaysia, the race winner, ending up with the 2nd fastest race lap. So I wonder what would have happened if Mexico hadn't had that problem. But Malaysia have come through to take their 3rd win of the season, to back up those 2 victories in the Czech Republic in the first half of the season. In fact, it's the first time they've had a podium finish since then, so that's even more reason to celebrate. 2nd place for Oliver Jarvis for Team Great Britain. He was 2nd in Beijing in the feature race, and now he's taken a 2nd place. Another runner-up position for Team GBR, but what it does is put them in great shape for the feature. And what about this young man, Ian Dyke, on his debut, making it a podium finish for Australia. It's their 3rd podium of this season of A1GP, and he is delighted to have taken it. Alex Young, though, looks totally untroubled by the physical demands of this Mexico City circuit, jumps up onto the podium to celebrate, and he's going to be joined by the other 2, but it's the youngsters who are actually struggling here. Alex is giving away a few years to these guys, but it's Ian Dyke who seems to have injured his foot in some way and has to be helped by Oliver Jarvis up onto the podium. But he's got the big smile. He's always got a big smile anyway, but it's beaming across his face now as Team Australia can celebrate that bronze medal. The silver medal going to Oliver Jarvis, and he'll be focused on the feature race now to try and go for an outright victory. Great Britain have waited nearly 1 3/4 full seasons of A1GP for that. Could it be their day? Well, we'll find out, because this man obviously will go for 2 out of 2. So the national anthem concludes. The gold medal to Alex Young of Malaysia, and that will actually move Malaysia up 1 place in the points. It puts them into 6th, ahead now of the Netherlands, and he'll be looking for the 10 points later on today. Real smile on his face from that one, and for the team down in pit lane, leads with the top 3. Confirmation of the result then, and it's Malaysia that takes the victory here in Mexico City, ahead of Great Britain, with Australia in a fine third, and South Africa in fourth position, fending off the advances of the United States. China in sixth place, ahead of Italy. Indonesia in a good eighth place. The Netherlands in ninth place. They made up a lot of places from their grid position, and in 10th, Switzerland with Marcel Fassler on his debut. 11th place went to Team India. They started back in 17th place, but Narain Karthikeyan could do more later. Czech Republic 12th, then Canada, Portugal, who had problems, of course, picking up debris. Pakistan finished 15th, ahead of New Zealand, who suffered the puncture. Mexico 17th. They had the fastest lap. They finished ahead of Lebanon, France, Brazil, Germany, and Ireland, who were out on that first lap. And here we are in Mexico, of course, a country with a great cultural heritage. The pre-Columbian age, of course, much early civilization in this part of the world. And then the Spaniards came along in the 1500s and took the country.
No, I don't know who's first. Emerson attack his turn.
It's the 9th event of the second season of A1GP World Cup of Motorsport, and we're in Mexico City at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. We've got cloud, but it's dry, it's still warm, it's quite muggy. Conditions pretty much ideal for the drivers out there, certainly not as tough as we saw in Durban in South Africa a few weeks ago. And they're ready to go racing on a track which is a challenge for the drivers. It offers overtaking opportunities in a couple of places, and everyone now getting very focused on this 45-lap race ahead.
Yes, it is a challenge, as you mentioned, for the drivers, but it really is a challenge for the engineers and also for the tyres. And one of the benefits of having the cloud cover come in, we don't have any blue sky anymore, is that in fact track temperatures will drop, and that will help the tyre situation. Of course, you've got the mandatory pit stop between laps 8 and 20, and then over the last few races that we've seen, everybody has now worked out the smart thing to do is to come in as early as possible, because they are concerned that in the event of a safety car deployment and having not made the pit stop, then they would be a serious loser. So I'm expecting everybody here to come in pretty much after the end of lap 8 for that mandatory pit stop, unless we've got some issue we haven't got control of right now.
So let's take a look at how they do line up for this feature race then. And courtesy of the win earlier on today in the sprint race, it means that Malaysia starts from pole position once again. This time, Great Britain will start alongside. They moved up from third to second in the sprint. On the second row, we have Australia and South Africa, with USA and China directly behind. On row number 4, it's Italy with Indonesia. Those are two feisty drivers together. Then we've got the Netherlands, and Jeroen Bleekemolen takes over from Renger van der Zande, who drove the car earlier. India and the Czech Republic are on row 6. On the row 7, we've got Canada and Portugal. On row 8, Pakistan and New Zealand. Johnny Reid hoping to move up from there, of course, but so is Mexico, starting 17th. Lebanon 18th, and we've got France way back after their spin earlier. Brazil's in 20th. Germany so fast in qualifying, but 21st after the accident earlier today. And poor old Team Ireland also right at the back for the feature race.
Well, Ben, just above the commentary booth, looking straight down under that pole position at the Team Malaysia car. Suddenly a lot of work is going on at the rear of that car. There are 4 engineers bending down. I don't know what they're doing, whether it's whether it's a mechanical problem or something to do with the gearbox, but certainly a lot of consternation right now. As we look down there, you can see the camera. They're working around the oil cooler, which I don't know whether maybe there's discovered a small leak or something coming from that. They need to make sure that that has been rectified there. Somebody going in with a long spanner to get in to try and tighten up whatever the offending part is, but it's a bit of panic here with the pole sitter for the feature race.
Yeah, definitely a worry for Team Malaysia. They're going to have to start clearing their personnel fairly soon from the grid. Everyone else is just down to the 2 or 3 mechanics that are allowed to get the car started. They haven't got to clear just yet, but of course if they don't clear when they're meant to, then they could pick up a penalty. So not good news at all. Germany meanwhile at the back of the grid, so they've got that whole distance to cover. And we'll have to see how the youngster Christian Vitoris deals with that. We're getting all ready for the signal to start these engines. And let's listen out for that now. So the engines begin to fire up. All 22 cars, their V8 engines bursting into life. And John, we gather that it was the crash box at the back of the Malaysia car that was a problem?
Well, that's a strange thing. I mean, it was a real panic in those few moments just before the engines were fired up. Now the Malaysia crew last off the grid. They've got to get all their start bottle equipment over the wall before these cars will be waved off. They're just about to be waved off now. I expect we may see a few practice starts, bearing in mind, as I mentioned, we are at 7,500 feet above sea level, and the engine power and the engine response is totally different to that on sea level.
So, wait for the formation lap to get underway. Remember, they will be coming back for that standing start. And we had a little bit of a mess on the rolling start, didn't we, halfway down that straight? Let's hope it stays clean this time. Malaysia will lead them away once they're given the signal. Just a few seconds away from that. The engine's all fired up, a few revs building. They'll get a chance to do a practice start here, of course, which may allow them to work out how to do it for real. Away they go. And yes, there's not much wheel spin from any of the front runners ahead of us.
Well, in fact, Malaysia did get moving initially, then it did bog down. Oliver Jarvis and Team GBR had a much better getaway than the Malaysia, so Alex Young better be careful, because that good start from Team GBR could be good enough when it's for real in a little over a minute's time to see Team GBR seize the advantage of that front row position and lead into turn one.
So this is the weaving around on the formation lap that we're used to seeing, getting some heat into those tyres and just getting the driver focused as much as anything on the feel of the car.
Yes, coming down into turn one, we anticipated there would be a problem in the sprint race. That was confirmed by the incident. Watch again for the cars as they come down on the standing start. They're further apart at that standing start. Nevertheless, they will be getting very close together as they come into the braking zone into turn one. The outside of the track, the right-hand side of the track as they go down into turn one is very dirty. There's both dust, rubber, and there's probably still a little bit of that carbon fibre shard that we saw from the accident during the sprint race.
All the way through the field, you've got the nation's colours of India, of the Czech Republic. There's Canada, the maple leaf livery, which is so clear to see, and one of the best liveries out there. But you've got Portugal, Pakistan, the black beauty of New Zealand, and there, festooned with sponsorship this weekend, the distinctive colours of the Mexican car.
Well, Salvador Duran certainly was set to please the Mexican crowd in the sprint race. He certainly annoyed a few other of the nations by bumping into Brazil, which took out Germany. But Mexico, certainly, they believe they've got a chance of picking up points from 10th down to first place. It's going to be a big shot for Salvador Duran. It's going to, again, mean he's going to have to be patient. See opportunities, certainly take them, but don't try to force issues, because one false move, as we saw in the sprint race, can mean effectively your drive for points will be over.
The field is quite spread out here, John. It's going to be quite a long wait for the front row men, because they're only just coming out of that final part of the S's as Alex Young now slows it down.
Well, he has brought it right down to a walking pace virtually, wisely, and also, of course, because he's on pole position. And we look there at the Malaysia engineers, Julian Randall, trying to explain, or have explained to him what that particular problem was. It's unusual to find a problem like that on the grid. But the field now coming onto the start-finish line with Malaysia and GB leading them down.
GB keeping it up wide, that's interesting, until he comes down to his position. And Australia, therefore, just following him down. And he's going to try and keep those tyres as clean as possible, staying off the dirty side until he moves to the inside for his grid position. Malaysia in place. Great Britain just rolling into position. Our commentary position overlooks those two front row cars. And then we see Australia and South Africa in position. Still many to take their place, though.
Yeah, they're being a bit pedestrian about getting onto their grid positions. It means that the front row of the grid are sitting here with engine temperatures rising, and it's always a frustration. And they're still exiting out of turn 14. We've now got Germany coming up. That's the final car. But, in fact, the final car on the grid is Ireland. Germany somehow or other has managed to get itself behind Ireland. That will no doubt be resolved once they take up their grid positions proper. And let's get this race underway as quickly as we can.
Last few cars are in place. Both the front row men are in position as well. Now we focus on the lights as we prepare for the feature race to get underway here in Mexico. The lights go out. It's a great start for Great Britain. Malaysia wheel spin, and USA moving up into second place.
And that was Malaysia getting bogged down a second time. China going down the outside. Cars 5 abreast coming down the straight into turn 1.
Australia trying to come back on the inside as well. Great Britain's got a big lead here down into turn 1. USA in second. China and the Netherlands together going into turn 1. Side by side, we're on board with Germany right at the back of the field.
And somehow or other, everybody got through. No damage to France, damage to the French car. And there is the end of the race for France for the second race. And then as Jean-Carl Vernet has out, look at the Netherlands pushing Italy. Somehow they dropped back. He was up further than that.
That's right. Italy's got past Netherlands. Jeroen Bleekemolen in the Dutch car now. He had to sit and watch his teammate drive the car in the sprint race. They've swapped now. I think New Zealand got caught up in that incident with France as well. So New Zealand's having a pretty horrible day currently. And up front, Great Britain have made a real getaway.
Yes, New Zealand's dropped back. Ireland has gained a little bit out of that. They started on the back of the grid. They were the last of the 22 cars. Germany now just waiting, running behind Pakistan. He has to wait. He can do nothing here through these sequence of lefts and rights until you get onto the main straight. The key is to get a good exit out of turn 14, but New Zealand pushing out hard, trying to make up for the ground loss with it. He's just gone past. I think that might have been the Lebanon.
So Malaysia losing out hugely there. 7th position for Team Malaysia, now under pressure from Team Mexico. Mexico's had a magic first lap because he's qualified with that race result earlier. He was 17th, slithering and sliding.
But look at this, it's the Netherlands and South Africa side by side. Jeroen Bleekemolen and Zaag going down side by side. Zaag marginally ahead, and Bleekemolen wisely pulls in behind, picks up the slipstream. Does he get on the bar boost button?
Italy trying to get past China. Italy going around the inside into turn 1. Enrico Toccocello. Oh, that's a good move. China trying to come back. He can't do it.
Experience from the Italian, and the Chinaman could not do anything about it.
On board with Germany. Germany currently running down in 20th position, way back, and he's struggling to find a way past Lebanon now. France in the pits, destroyed front nose cone. It's not been a good debut for Jean-Carl Vernet.
So the young Frenchman getting caught out twice in turn 1, lost it, spun out, and then contact in the feature race. But look at this traffic coming into turn 6. We've got South Africa still ahead of the Netherlands, with Malaysia behind.
So it's Great Britain leading. USA with the youngster Jonathan Somerton in second position. USA running very well. Third place for Team Italy now, then China in 4th place with South Africa, the Netherlands, Malaysia, Mexico all up there, all battling for position. Oliver Jarvis it is who leads for Great Britain, and Great Britain still looking for their first ever win in A1GP, remember.
But it's Jonathan Somerton who is actually shadowing every move from Team GBR as France make their way out of the pits, and that was to replace the damaged nose cone, so he feels, and he's now of course virtually he's going to be lapped because the cars have just exited out of 14, and it is USA closing up to the back of Team GBR. Jonathan Somerton really looking as if he wants to take the lead of this race.
Look in the background as well, there's more battles going on. Netherlands versus Malaysia, and that's for 6th place. Jeroen Bleekemolen trying to defend, but you're right, USA getting closer and closer to GBR up front. Here's the battle, Malaysia in the yellow outside of the Netherlands, and Malaysia takes 6th position.
So the field files away, and Brazil looking to come down the inside into turn 1. Car on the outside, he gets through cleanly. That's another position for Brazil. That's now up to 17th. That was India. No, it wasn't India's ahead.
Team Ireland, yes, so I'm not quite sure what happened to Ireland there.
Germany is off in turn 2, coming onto turn 3, so a mistake. Christian Vatoris, all in his own, makes an error.
But back with Australia and Portugal now. They're side by side. They're running in what is 9th and 10th place. Portugal's just gained that 10. He's got through.
I don't know what Australia did. They were 3rd on the grid. Somehow they've gone backwards in the first 2 laps. And for Ian Dyke, it can't be that dicky right leg of his.
Well, you never know. He's got his foot strapped up now as a result of spraining his ankle earlier. That can't help the focus and concentration. He's got to be careful now because Switzerland's immediately behind. Marcel Fassler driving for the Swiss team for the first time this year. Neil Yarney, who was due to drive the car, went down with a bout of food poisoning before arriving here in Mexico. So Fassler holding on to 10th for Switzerland. Portugal just up ahead. We're on board with Mexico again.
Running behind Malaysia as they come up into this final turn. It's a long way around.
He's actually behind Netherlands now.
That position is swapped round. So coming out of turn 14, runs a little bit high coming out of the corner, but manages to keep the car on the tarmac. You don't want to be on the grass. Now flat out Who's going to use power boost? Can anybody see any way? The gaps between all the cars are too even. There's nobody going to gain any benefit from using power boost.
So 3 laps completed, 42 laps still to go. Long way to go in a feature race, but Mexico's on the attack already, trying to run a little wider into turn 1. Meanwhile, the Czech Republic there having a race with New Zealand.
And Indonesia just ahead of them. So those 3 cars in a battle. New Zealand really frustrated with that incident. Must have had contact with France in turn 1. Dropping all the way down to 14th place, but they are making ground, and Indonesia
Portugal getting alongside Mexico there. Oh, that was tight. Nearly got alongside enough, but Salvador Duran just able to shut the door.
And behind them, Ian Dyke for Australia, but these 2 cars, Portugal and Mexico, capable of racing each other, make sure they don't make contact.
Yeah, but it's dropping them back from the Netherlands. They've got to be careful, otherwise they'll lose more ground. It's still GBR from USA, then Italy in 3rd. China in a very strong 4th place. South Africa in 5th. Then it's this race that's going on, and just behind Malaysia, we've got Netherlands versus Mexico and Portugal, all just inside the top 10. There's your race leader, who's just eased away again a bit over the last
Oliver
lap.
Jarvis has managed to get 3/4 of a second as they came across the line at the end of the last lap, and that gap probably somewhere around that 3/4 of a second.
So Netherlands, Jeroen Bleekemolen fending off the local hero, Salvador Duran, for the moment. But the crowd power is urging Duran on, and whether he can find a bit more speed, but he was a bit slow there, and he's under threat now from Portugal.
Now watch what Duran does. He's clearly going to block that Portuguese entry. Portugal comes out, gets almost a year alongside, side by side. He's being squeezed by Mexico. There's the Dutch car ahead, so they're going to find a way past that as well. It's going slowly.
Yeah, the Dutch car, I don't know what happened there, almost 3 abreast, weren't they?
I don't know what happened in the Netherlands. They suddenly came into play where previously they weren't.
So maybe a slight problem. Let's keep an eye on the Dutch car. But Portugal did get ahead of Mexico. So Portugal now come up into 8th place.
And a well-judged overtaking manoeuvre by Alvaro Parant for Portugal. Mexico, Salvador Duran in no position to challenge. That was because Salvador Duran was slow off the start.
Well, here we are, another look at the start, and Malaysia really very poor off 2nd place. USA made a fantastic start to move up into 2nd, and then everybody else was battling for position. On-board view with Mexico. He slipped through the middle this time.
Yeah, Pakistan had a slow start as well. So Salvador Duran got clear this time. He goes down the left-hand part of the track. Everybody tends to go over to the right to block anybody going down the inside. There you can see Portugal actually were ahead as they came down into turn 1 at the start.
There were 5 cars abreast at one point there coming into turn 1. I'm amazed there wasn't more damage. Of course, France and New Zealand did tangle.
So let's see what happened to Germany. Again, this is a lap ago. Just simply outbraked himself coming into turn 1 and had to run off the track on the grass. Back onto the racetrack. No damage to the car, but tyres will have been clogged up. And, of course, Germany still back down in 19th place. But, well, it's going to be a long afternoon for young Christian Vitoris.
GBR's pulled away a bit more, opened up the lead at fraction. It's 1.4 seconds over USA. And, in fact, if anything, Italy's now got closer to the back of the American car. Toccacello closing up.
Yeah, I think that it's a combination of 2 things. One is Oliver Jarvis has picked up speed.
Portugal on Netherlands here, trying to go around the outside.
Locks it up on the inside, but gets it. You're going to carry a lot of speed into turn 1. Portugal did.
Wow, great move by Alvaro Parent. That was an aggressive piece of overtaking. It's always tough to go around the outside, and he did it beautifully there. A demonstration drive, really, from Alvaro Parent to move up into 7th place.
And, you know, this car is engineered by the senior citizens of A1GP. There's not one of them that's under 60 years of age.
Well, the car's going well. He had a great result in Durban as well. Mexico wants another go at getting past the Netherlands here. He wants to follow Portugal through, but Jeroen Bleekemolen knows his stuff. He won't make it very easy. On board here with Brazil, and they're running 17th, just ahead of Ireland and Germany. Lebanon and Pakistan are the other runners behind Brazil. The car ahead is that of Team India.
Well, the Brazil entry, Bruno Junqueira, like many that started on the back row of the grid, they're finding it difficult to make up places. The place that they can do it is at the end of the straight, but of course everybody's going to be much the same speed down the straight, and if you don't do it into turn 1, then you're never going to get to do it until you get back to this part of the racetrack, the exit of turn 14.
Across the line to complete another lap. That's 6 laps now completed by race leader. The gap opening up, 1st to 2nd a little.
Well, it's actually come down by 1/10 of a second, but in reality it's still just 1.3 to 1.4 seconds, and it's just a question of where you are.
Malaysia on the power boost. You can see the button flashing away in the bottom part of the screen. Another 30 horsepower certainly at sea level. I don't know if it's quite as much when we're at this altitude.
I would suspect it's not anywhere near 30 horsepower at this altitude. It's certainly more than you would have without using power boost, but the benefit of power boost will be diminished because of the altitude.
So didn't make any difference to Malaysia there. They're still running 6th behind South Africa. Adrian Zhao for South Africa, having a relatively untroubled time at the moment, but it may be getting more difficult with Malaysia closing up. Now there's New Zealand. New Zealand not making much progress. He's running 13th. I think that the French car made contact with him on that opening lap. It was a bit difficult to say exactly what had happened, but no points at the moment for where New Zealand are lying.
Well, kicking up the dust, that we see again in the background, the Netherlands kicking up dust as they came out of turn 5, and of course that again kicks up the dust onto the racetrack. It's a racetrack that's going to have a very narrow line by the time it gets to the middle or end of this race. Lots of the rubber being shredded off the tyre surface, and that rolls off. You can see it already building up as they come through turn 9.
Canada, India and Brazil all fairly close to one another there. Great Britain coming around to complete another lap and looking pretty smooth and composed. The pit lane will be opening up in a couple of laps' time. I wonder if we'll see people making early pit stops or late pit stops. USA still in a very, very strong second place ahead of Italy in third. Then it's China, South Africa and Malaysia, all relatively spaced apart now. Portugal running in 7th position.
This time around at the end of lap 7, the gap has in fact increased. It's gone from 1.3 to 1.5 seconds. So it's seesawing by a tenth of a second a lap between first and second. And Italy a further 1.2 seconds behind in third place.
Czech Republic attacking New Zealand for 13th place. You can see the New Zealand car on the inside. We switch back to look on board from Brazil's point of view, and he's making the move.
He's spun it. He's got it back again. Well, what a save. Well, almost a what a save. He did the best he could to try and get that car. And was there contact? I think that might have been India.
Yeah, he was trying to get past India. India ended up on the grass, obviously, and Junqueira ended up half spinning, and we were riding with him as it happened.
Well, you know, you talk about experienced drivers. You got A1 Karthikeyan in the India car trying to defend it. He sort of got caught up in the more experienced Bruno Junqueira, the most experienced man here in the race on this particular racetrack, and it's been a struggle for Bruno Junqueira all weekend.
So the New Zealand car still ahead of the Czech Republic. Let's see what happened again from the onboard point of view.
Just too quick in, the back brakes lock on. He does a good job in trying to recover the car, but India has to go behind. The Brazil car goes off the racetrack, and an innocent victim being a part of an incident which involved Brazil just being a little bit ambitious.
Yeah, it might mean that Ireland managed to nip past India as a result of that. We'll check that when they come back past our commentary position, but Netherlands still running in 8th, Mexico in 9th, Australia down in 10th after starting 3rd, then followed by Switzerland and Indonesia.
And all that incident down to turn 1 with India and Brazil may well help Germany. They're now up to 18th place. Young Christian Vitoros just needs to let this race to settle down. It's unlikely he's going to go on and win it, but he certainly has got an opportunity after 45 laps or 69 minutes to get himself and Germany some of those vital points to keep that pressure on New Zealand.
That's right. Well, Germany, as you say, did gain. They're ahead now of India. Ireland also gained a little bit from that incident. Turn 1, there's Germany. Behind him now, India locking up. Then it's Ireland ahead of Brazil, the car that spun, and now trying to get back into this race.
Well, Ireland's got a rearward facing camera. I wish you could see some shots from that to imagine that the eyes of Bruno Junqueira are out on stalks.
So some of the pit crews are preparing for pit stops already, and we're going to see some early pit stops being made by some of the front-running crews. It looks to me as though the race leader, Team GBR, could be into the pits pretty early. They're going to have to look at a good, smooth service to change those tyres and send him on his way again. The gap, 1.7 seconds, first to second.
Well, to follow the form book, we'd expect to see the majority of the field come in at the end of the 8th lap, maybe come in at the end of the 9th lap. The pit lane will get very busy. Each pit has got a separate little box, but of course you have to be careful. Never go over that white line, by the way. That'll be a drive-through penalty. As if Oliver Jarvis flirting with that white line that has been taken out a little bit wider, so I think he's all right on this occasion.
Yeah, he's okay. He stays well within the white line. He's now on the pit lane speed limiter. The United States leads here in Mexico with Italy in 2nd place and China now up into 3rd.
South Africa coming into the pits also, so 2 cars, 3 cars. Indonesia following in, New Zealand as well. And looking further back, the Czech Republic.
So the guys have to stay behind the wall until the car's there, then they can run around. And it looks like
new tyres.
Yeah, new set of tyres for Great Britain. So this could put him in great shape when they send him on his way. A little bit slow moving the front jack. He comes out just ahead of the Czech car, which is coming in. It looked like a pretty smooth stop.
It looked like it went very well. Less haste, more speed, less haste, whichever that was for the Team GBR team, so they stop it at 38.9 seconds. South Africa still in the pit lane, so their stop is slower, coming down 39.3, so just over half a second between Great Britain and South Africa and Indonesia. Their time going to go into the 40s. Czech Republic, New Zealand, into the 40s as well.
So that was a great stop by Team GBR. As you can see, it's the fastest of that group by at least 0.4 of a second. So well done to the team. Are Great Britain really heading for their first victory? Dare not say that.
You shouldn't have said it.
There's a long way to go yet, John. There's 36 laps to go.
It is, and remember, these tyres are going to have to go those 36 laps, and that's got a lot longer. They've only gone 8 laps. And I can assure you that watching the cars coming through the back of the circuit, through the S's, they were struggling already. They were a late call into the pits. He's not going to the pits. He just used the pit lane. Jonathan Somerton, Team USA, leading this race, comes through. He was over a second ahead of Italy at the end of the last lap. It's now 1.4 seconds the advantage USA has over Italy.
He's driving beautifully as Jonathan Somerton, leading for Team USA, and justifying the faith that Rick Weininger has put into this young man. He's not raced extensively in powerful cars. He's been racing Formula 3 in Europe the last year or so. He's been impressive as a rookie for the team. He's been given his chance last time out in Durban. Did have an accident, but they were still impressed with what he'd done up to that stage, and he's showing it once again here.
Yeah, I think the only issue that they may have with Jonathan is that right now he had that heavy accident as Germany comes in as well. That heavy accident in Durban, South Africa. And of course it is a long race, it's warm, very physical circuit, particularly around the S's, and it will be ultimately about stamina and therefore concentration.
Germany, Christian Vittoris making his first ever A1GP pit stop. Remember, it's the first feature race he's ever done. Let's see how this time compares to 37.6, so a fraction quicker than Team GBR. That's the fastest stop we've seen, and it was for Team Germany. It goes to show they not only have a great car, they also have a great team.
Keep an eye on Malaysia, currently in 4th place. They haven't yet made their pit stop. They've just shown us the fastest individual time in Sector 1. They're now running 4th, 2.3 seconds behind China. Now, will Malaysia do something slightly different? Maybe as China did in Australia, stay out a lot longer. It's always a gamble, because the concern will be if there's an incident, the safety car will be deployed.
So he came out just between Indonesia and the Czech Republic there, and those two cars have already stopped, and no doubt he'll try and get past Indonesia if possible, but passing Ananda Mikula is never an easy task. Let's remind you that we're in the middle of the pit stop, so that throws the order out a little, but USA leading from Italy and China, with Malaysia running in 4th place. They were under pressure from Portugal, I noticed, last time around. There is Team Portugal. Now, where's Malaysia? Here, he's still ahead, so that is the current battle for 4th position.
They've now got Australia, India coming in as well. Switzerland's in, so a good stop for Australia. They're back out running down the pit lane. Of course, they're early in the pit lane. It's this interminable run down at 42 miles per hour, 60 kilometres per hour in the pit lane until you get to the green light, and then you can go.
On board with Team Portugal there. Switzerland, meanwhile, making their pit stop as well. Marcel Fassler, he's pretty used to pit stops in other classes of racing, but it's the first he's done in an A1GP car, but it wasn't a great stop. Look at the clock ticking away. Back with Portugal, still chasing Malaysia, still close in behind the yellow and white car.
In the meantime, it's Team GBR setting fastest race lap to date. 1 minute 27.924. That's just a fraction of a second off what we saw from Salvador Duran in the sprint race.
So Great Britain using their new tyres to the maximum and hoping that those cars ahead of them when they make their stops are going to come out behind. It's pretty likely, because he's going so quickly at the moment, Jarvis. He should extend a lead over those who haven't stopped.
And the key is that Oliver Jarvis on those new tyres has got a clear racetrack ahead of him, so he's able to use the tyre to its maximum. He'll get 3 laps out of the tyre before it settles down into its more normal pattern. Netherlands coming into the pit lane as they come up to the end of lap 10.
Yeah, Malaysia's already in, so those are key stops being made here. Malaysia in, Mexico's into the pits as well, the host nation making their pit stop, just running down the pit lane as I speak. Malaysia going to work. Can they turn him around quickly? What a disappointment that start was for Alex Young. It's not unlikely he's going to make it 2 out of 2 here today. Ooh.
He stutters as he comes. He's having a problem. He had a problem with the dummy start. He had a problem with the start of the race. And even again, leaving the pits, the car hesitated and just almost coughed.
Yeah, so maybe there is some sort of difficulty there. Netherlands still in the pits. I think they've got a problem on the left front, possibly. Mexico, meanwhile, are back out, and we'll see what the time looks like. It's not a particularly quick time from any of these guys. Look, well over 40 seconds.
Indeed, so the Malaysia's time 42.3, has not helped. The only good news is that Mexico's time was even slower.
Germany's going to end up ahead. Now, that shows you how effective that pit stop was for Team Germany.
The effect, and he goes down to try and pass Indonesia down into turn one. Wisely thinks the better of it. And Inder Mikkola is never easy to pass, and particularly into an area so easy to overtake as turn one. He's capable of defending it aggressively.
I think Christian Vittorius may well get Netherlands still in the pits.
I think he's got a problem with the clutch or the gearbox because he's having to get a push start. I suspect it's the clutch. But look at Germany really putting the heat on the rear of Indonesia, and Inder Mikkola knows he's got a 17-year-old behind him because he doesn't care for his reputation.
No, I think the 17-year-old might learn a lesson in defensive driving from Mr. Mikkola here. He is tough to pass by any of the guys out there, but Vittorius has shown pace. Now, Italy in from second position. USA still leads. China now up into second place. Portugal up to third. And Canada leaving at their stop to pretty late. Canada now running in fourth position. With Italy having made their stop, it means that most of the front runners have stopped. Ireland are leaving it late as well.
Team GBR up to 7th place, and the benefit of having that new set of tyres is enabling them to lap approximately a second a lap quicker than those that are yet to come in and those that are running in the 1 minute 29s, 1 minute 30s, and some even in the 31s.
Italy made an identical pit stop there to Team GBR, so a pretty effective stop for Team Italy, and that'll be interesting in the battle between themselves and USA. We're still waiting for USA to make a pit stop, of course. It is Jonathan Somerton for Team USA who leads.
I think Team USA ought to take the opportunity where possible to bring their car in. They're lapping about a second a lap slower than Team GBR. Of course, GBR on that new tyre. Well, when we go down the inside, Mexico tried to get past the Czech Republic, but there was no way. Germany's still trying to find a way past Indonesia, and it will be, as you mentioned, Ben, an object lesson on how to defend your position coming from the Team Indonesia driver.
Look at Mikkola. He's looking in his mirrors all the time. He's barely looking at the track ahead. He's just watching that left-hand mirror to see where the German car is.
Well, the German driver, Christian Vittorius, 17 years, 11 months and a few more days. And he's got to be careful, he's got to be patient. How can you tell a 17-year-old to be patient?
That's right. Well, he's doing a good job so far. Lebanon just into the pits. Meanwhile, also China. So one of the real last front runners to come in. Still USA lead this race. 31 laps remain. We've had 14 laps so far, so we're still not even close to half distance. Most teams going for the early pit stop, and Team GBR, who went for one of the earliest stops of all, now up to 5th place, courtesy of China being in.
China's come in, and there's a problem on that left rear, and we're just waiting to see. The car is now moving, but already 35 seconds have taken place before they get the car rolling. They're towards the end of the pit lane, so it'll not take him so much. The loss of time will be compensated for by the fact that he's near the end of the pit lane.
I'm not sure we ever had a clock on the South African pit stop, but I think it must have been pretty special.
I think it was I think 0.4 of a second slower than GBR. It was very close to GBR's time.
Okay, well, they've moved ahead of Italy.
Germany pulls out, finding a way past Indonesia. Is he far enough here? Yes, he's done it finally.
Yeah, good pass by Christian Vittorius.
And look at this, Mexico
passing the Czech Republic at the same time. Well, that's good stuff from Salvador Duran. And look, Team China's joined in behind them.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because that delay in the pit stop has put China behind 4 cars. Somerton and America in, but stay careful. Don't overrun that outside of those 2 lines coming into the pit lane.
Well, what a moment this is for Team USA, leading the race for the youngster, Jonathan Somerton. But now we'll wait to see what happens. Portugal will take the lead because Portugal has not yet come into the pit. And we'll wait to see whether it is going to be Great Britain through next. You're watching GBR currently. How quickly can USA turn the car around? New sponsorship on the car this weekend as well, and it certainly seems to have brought them some success so far, but the chances of actually coming out ahead of Oliver Jarvis for Team GBR surely are pretty remote.
Well, Jarvis has just come onto the pit lane now, or pit straight now, goes past the USA in the garage. There's nothing the USA can do about it. USA at the far end of the pitch there. They come now out of the pitch, so they're going to come out. There's
South Africa.
South Africa may put a USA on no. America is safe. The USA is in and out, and they are going to run on the road behind Team GBR. In effect, GBR will be leading the race.
So let's see how Somerton deals with these first couple of corners. That's where the lack of experience might tell, of course. Meanwhile, Malaysia a little further back, and Malaysia now currently running in 8th position, but it's Portugal that actually leads this race. Although we've been going on about Great Britain and USA, because Portugal haven't stopped yet, they're still waiting. Now, what's going on here?
Mexico's back in again.
Yeah, they've already stopped, haven't they?
So we don't know if this is a problem or whether it's a penalty for something. Now it's the engine stopped, and I think it's all over for Mexico. And Salvador Duran is going to step out of the car, and you can hear the disappointment coming from Team Mexico. Salvador Duran waving his hands, indicating that there's something that is a major problem, nodding his head backwards and forwards. I don't know whether he's trying to indicate there's an engine problem or there's a mechanical problem. That certainly it is severe enough that the car is sitting here, the engineers working around the back of the car, and the disappointment in the eyes of Salvador Duran.
Team Lebanon and Germany under investigation for something. Whether that's to do with pit stops, we don't know at the moment, but we'll report further on that. But what a disappointment for Mexico again on home turf. Things haven't gone their way, and the faces in the crowds really told
it is
the story.
an engine problem because they're plugging in to download the data off the engine, so to see what exactly it is. But not judging by the body language of Salvador Duran, something was clearly not letting the engine perform correctly. In other words, there's stuttering and starting and dodging and dunding. So they want to find out as quickly as possible, but Mexico, it's all over for Salvador Duran.
Portugal leads the race from Canada and Ireland. Those three nations, the only nations not to have made their pit stop. You're on board now with Alvaro Parente of Portugal. He has an advantage of some 16 seconds over Canada. Then Ireland are a further 9 seconds back, but Great Britain just passed Ireland as they went past us, in fact, so now GBR up to third.
So Portugal has got an advantage of 26 seconds over Team GBR. They are, in effect, the nation that will be in the lead once Portugal takes. So 26 seconds is going to drop away. The lap time of Portugal, 1:29.094. That's a strong lap against the 1:28.9 from Team GBR. So use tyres on Portugal and new tyres on GBR.
Oh, can you believe it? Fuel pressure, engine-related problem. But Portugal, race leader, into the pits now. So where will Portugal come back out? Of course, the sympathy in pit lane from Joe Ramirez there for Salvador Duran. But Great Britain not going to take the lead just yet because Canada has stayed out on circuit. But here's Portugal now in. I wonder where this will bring Portugal back into the fray.
I suspect it's going to bring Portugal in somewhere between Italy and Malaysia because the pace of GBR there on the picture. USA behind South Africa. The top three, as everybody then makes the pit stops, it should be somewhere around about, I suspect, somewhere like 5 or 6 in terms of overall positions.
We didn't get a clock on that, but that looked pretty efficient from a team that's been hastily thrown together. And he's got
Malaysia, so there they are. Malaysia currently, it's running in 8th place, and he's been overtaken by Malaysia, so they will go 9th.
New Zealand behind there is actually, let's see, I'm just trying to see. I think New Zealand may just have passed Australia coming on that last lap. We'll check that next time around. But as you say, Portugal has got out ahead, just behind Malaysia.
Ian Dyke in the Australia car looked like he'd got a handful of understeer coming through turn 2, and that indicates something's hanging off the rear of the bodywork. Is it part of the rear wing, or something is caught onto the leading edge of the rear wing on the New Zealand car?
Oh, that's
on the left side, you can just see. Well, that shot's a bit too tight.
I think that might have dated back to that incident with France right at the beginning of the race, actually.
Well, there it is. I can't tell. It's the camera, and I think that might be the camera mounted on the rear wing. Somehow or other, the housing for the camera may well have been damaged.
Now, Portugal back on track, but did they cross the line coming out of the pits? Watch out for, or coming into the pits,
coming into the pits very, very late coming in, and I think that might be considered to be an over late entry into the pit lane because he was effectively 3/4 way around the corner, and you are meant to come into the pit lane a little bit earlier than that, so that could be the reason, or a reason for. We've got 4 teams under investigation: Lebanon, Germany, USA and Portugal.
And USA just having gone past. Look at this battle though between Malaysia and Portugal. It might be for nothing if Portugal get penalised, but at the moment we can enjoy the battle between the two of them. Across the line they come. Great Britain still leading by 4.6 seconds.
Defence from Malaysia running down on the right hand side of the track, then back to the left. Now, strictly speaking, you're allowed to make one defensive move. That looked to me as if it was 2.
The graphic at the bottom of the screen is not the positions, it's their fastest laps. So the fastest lap in this race belongs to the United States. United States, though, currently running in 2nd place to Great Britain. Now I think everyone has stopped bar Ireland. We've got Great Britain leading, USA 2nd, Ireland still in 3rd, but they haven't stopped. And that should promote South Africa into a possible podium finish.
And look, Alvaro Parente all over the back of Malaysia, looking to go one way, then the next. They come into turn 6, and Malaysia, they are struggling. They're not able to pull out of turn 6. And Alvaro Parente, there's nothing he can do. He's just got to wait and be patient and use that turn 14 onto Main Straight to his advantage. and the back of the car of Malaysia all over the place. Alvaro Parent trying to drive slightly offline to give himself some advantage when they come out of turn 13. That's the final of these S's that leads on to the run down into turn 14. So can he do something into turn 14? It's a big question, not something I think he can answer here on this lap.
Coming down towards that one then, Peraltada, the famous corner. Look at New Zealand, definitely closer behind. Running now in 8th position is Johnny Reid, and trying to make up for that disastrous qualifying session they had yesterday.
I think Malaysia has lost a bunch of grip because they're running very high in the early part of turn 14. Alvaro Parent now running behind Malaysia coming down the straight. He's got no boost left at all. Malaysia's got 5. He doesn't have to even to use it.
No, that's right. Well, there's no change, I don't think, this time as they come into turn 1. Meanwhile, Team Ireland are in the pit, so finally, Team Ireland have made what is a pretty late stop. I wonder where this will bring them back into the equation.
Well, it'll be interesting to see. It may well have played to their strengths, because Ireland, starting at the back of the grid, we're going to really struggle to find a way up to the top 10. By staying out as late as they've done, it may actually be the move of the weekend for Team Ireland. Certainly, if any team deserves some luck in A1GP this year, it is the Irish team.
Yeah, I don't think it's actually going to help them much. Canada came in a moment ago. They're now down in 16th place. Ireland down to 17th position, I think. So really, coming in late has not been beneficial. But remember, the tyres on those late comers, if you like, will be in much better shape come the end of the race.
And we're saying, look at Alex Young, the car really, he's just having to drive at a pace to keep the car on the racetrack. Alvaro Parent not able to do anything in Portugal, directly behind.
Don't know whether the leader had a bit of traffic on the last lap. Ollie Jarvis for Team GBR did a 1:29.4. USA in second did a 1:28.6. So the United States was a lot quicker last time around, but there's still a 3.9 second gap between them. So there we are. There's our race leader. Yeah. I tell you what, John, USA's just gone past Lebanon, so that might have been the reason that GBR
it's traffic, and traffic is the problem. And of course, the only place that you can realistically get to overtake is coming down into turn 1. You can have a dive in a couple of other parts of the racetrack, but you've got to be absolutely square with the car. But look at this fight going on behind, coming down the straight. Is that Portugal? It is, and Malaysia, and New Zealand, and Australia.
Yeah, this is a great run between these guys. And Alex Young, the winner of the sprint race earlier on today, really now, Portugal getting very sideways.
He caught the curb. That's why he got the rear wheel, hit the curb badly in 2 and flung the car sideways. The curbing in 1, 2 and 3 are very, very steep, 45-degree bank, 45-degree curbs.
Yeah, they are tough, and you cannot afford to hit them hard, and that's what happened to Portugal, but he saved it well, and he's still pushing Malaysia. This is for 5th place, so useful points and useful prize money on offer to all these guys. And remember, New Zealand are desperate to try and close the gap on Germany in the outright points race. Germany, though, are running in 9th place. That's only 2 places behind New Zealand, despite starting so far back on the grid. So we'll have to keep an eye on Christian Vittoris as well. Germany will be the next in line, actually, behind this group. There is a bit of a gap from Australia to Germany.
And that's going to work to the German advantage, because this group of cars, their pace is being dictated by Malaysia, whereas Germany is running in clear air. There was a 3.6 second gap from Germany to Australia at the end of lap 20, 24 laps to go. There's the car. You just see it coming into view as they come out of turn 13. So this group of cars running in 5th through to 8th place, being dictated by the pace of Malaysia, and I would imagine that 3.6 second gap from the back of the Australia car to Germany will be down to about 3 seconds if Germany's got a good lap.
All 4 cars were really running right out to the ragged edge onto the start-finish straight there, but beautifully under control as well, and Malaysia just maintaining the advantage in 5th place ahead of this gaggle. There's the one we're talking about. There's
the
Germany.
gap is 3.3 seconds. To get it under 3 seconds was a big ask, but 3.3 seconds is the gap.
Czech Republic still just outside the points. They're in 12th place, tucked in behind Indonesia. China lost out hugely on that pit stop, didn't they? Because they were running in a strong 3rd or 4th place earlier on in this race. And now poor China is down in 10th position. Next race will be in China, in Shanghai. And they could have done without such a slow pit stop that really cost them so much time.
Yannick Jaros, Czech Republic. You can see his head leaning over to the left, and I suspect that's the consequence of the forces that he's being subjected to. It's a very physical circuit here. Exit of 6 all the way through the sequence of lefts and rights. Enormous amount of pressure being put on your body. We saw from the onboard camera shots on my lap and on all the other laps we've had. Look how wide Indonesia going round turn 9. It is very, very physical. There, China having to lean his head into the corner to take some of the load off his neck muscles.
So 277.2 kilometres per hour, the top speed that we've seen from any of the cars, and it's the German car, as you saw there. Rob Arnott there, race engineer with the headset on of Team China, and well, they're just trying to come back a little bit after that poor pit stop. There's no doubt that further up ahead, I saw that again Portugal was a little closer to Malaysia as they came past us that time. Here we go again, John. Look, Portugal tucked in behind Malaysia.
Again, you're allowed to make one move, and Alex Young, to me, has gone from left to right, then back to left, and that seems to be still counted as one move. There's still 4 cars under investigation: Lebanon, Germany, USA, and Portugal. We've not seen any consequence of that investigation. We've still got 23 laps or 34 minutes to go.
Yes, just waiting to see what happens with regard now. We're just waiting for USA to come through on this lap. Has he already been? May have been through already, but we'll have to check that. Team Australia there, still running in 8th position, but with Germany just beginning to bear down on him. So he may well have his mirrors filled up with the youngster Christian Vittoris soon. This one's the one that's doing all the work, though. Team Portugal, desperate to try and take that 5th position away from Malaysia.
Well, he's just going to have to be patient. It is frustrating because Alvaro Parent for Portugal knows he's got a car capable of running quicker than Malaysia. As we see Adrian Zaug running in a strong 3rd place, pretty much on his own. He's got Italy 2.9 seconds behind, but equally he's 3.6 seconds behind Team USA.
This is great performance for Team South Africa. They did struggle a bit in qualifying at the first segment of the track, but they were very fast on that last sector. And Adrian Zaug, who of course was such a star at the first meeting at Zandvoort of this second season, then had to have an operation on his arms. He's had a little bit of inconsistent performance, but this is more like it. This is South Africa fighting fit once again and running 3rd.
Well, there's a little overtake going on. Czech Republic just getting ahead. And that, I think, in fact, was probably
France.
Well, I was getting an overtaking, a lapping of France on the Lebanon.
Poor old France, of course. They had that accident early on, didn't they? So they're running down in 21st position. Fastest lap in this race belongs to USA. But the last lap or so, Great Britain's just managed to maintain its advantage at around 3.5 seconds.
And slowly, Germany is running down the back of Australia. It's now 2.7 seconds. So Christian Vittoris doing a strong job in 9th place, and that's going to be a challenge within the next 10 laps to Australia from Germany.
So I wonder whether Malaysia here is going to get held up at all, and that might give Portugal a chance. They're coming up to lap the Lebanese car. It's been driven by Alam Koder this weekend, so he's been given another chance for Team Lebanon. He's made very few mistakes, I must say. Alam Koder is very inexperienced compared to some of the other guys out there, but he's made very few errors.
Well, I don't think Ireland would agree with on that one, because it did about £10,000 worth of damage to the back of the Irish car at the start of the sprint race.
I forgot about that one. We never actually saw it.
A big kick-up of dust coming there from, that was, I'm not sure what I was going to say. So it goes through Italy, coming through. Again, the car's running very wide, and we saw Enrico Toccacella getting the car way out, almost into the rubber on the outside of turn 14. That is no man's land.
Oh, side by side onto the straight. Portugal and Malaysia absolutely side by side. The Malaysia car, there it is. Look how close they are.
But Malaysia pulled that advantage back. They've now got Lebanon. They're going to lap Lebanon as they come down the straight. We're both New Zealand on power boost. Portugal's got nothing left. Malaysia's got it there. So that's the weakness that Portugal's had. They've used all their power boost too early. New Zealand trying to sneak through, gets through cleanly. And what a great battle. I mean, that's the intelligence and the maturity and the racing head of Alex Young. He knows he hasn't got the quickest car, but he's got the advantage and he's got power boost.
Oh, that was exciting. Just glanced out of the commentary box window to see them side by side onto the straight. We have a wonderful vantage point here. And Alex Young just managing to fend off Team Portugal as they went through down onto turn 1. So still Alvaro Parent is denied his chance. But you can't deny that Alex Young is going to fight every inch of the way here.
The car to watch in this little battle, in fact, is the black car there in Team New Zealand, because as the squabble goes on within Malaysia and Portugal, it could well be Johnny Reid who picks up the pieces. At some point, frustration may get the better of the judgment of Alvaro Parent. He may just decide to take a punt down the inside. Johnny Reid is perfectly placed to take advantage of any errors of misjudgment or driving error.
That's right, but out front it's still Great Britain that leads, and we've gone just over the half distance mark now. 25 laps have been completed. There are 20 laps still to go, or 31 minutes depending which comes first. Again, Great Britain and USA were pretty evenly matched last time around.
So let's watch and see what Portugal can do. Runs wide, coming out in ideally placed, coming off the corner, but the problem is he has no power boost left. Again, Alex Young goes to the right to defend, stays in the middle of the track. Will he try to go back to the left as he's been doing previously, or stay on the right-hand side? This time again he's coming back, and Portugal denied yet again, and New Zealand sitting there unable to make any impression. But you can see the back of the car, the Malaysian car, is not capable of accepting even the 450 horsepower at altitude that these cars are generating.
It's good racing though, isn't it? Really having to think about this. Both guys are having to think exactly about placing the car, where they can brake, how late can they brake into the corner. There was
That was a mistake from Malaysia.
Yeah, a little error. Oh, and another one there from, was that India running wide? I'm not sure. No, it wasn't.
It was, yes. India, no, he's just trying to shake the dust off his tires. He weaved aggressively. That was to get the dust he just picked up on the tires, get it off as quickly as possible. That was intelligent from Narain Karthikeyan, because he knew that if he didn't, he would have been under even more pressure presently than he is.
He's currently running down in 13th place, still with Brazil behind. There's Bruno Junqueira.
I think Bruno Junqueira must have seen that. What is going on with India? And behind he was thinking that it was giving India back the advantage.
Behind them we've got Switzerland. So Switzerland lost out on that pit stop round because they were running in 10th place earlier on. Great Britain's just about to cross the line to complete yet another lap. Still the gap between himself and USA at 3.8 seconds. Very, very constant, the gap first to second. But still we gather that Portugal is putting the pressure on Malaysia for fifth, and they're side by side through Peraltada.
Almost around the outside. Look at New Zealand. I told you, New Zealand's going to be the car. We've now got Pakistan coming into play. Johnny Reid pulls out, gets alongside. Portugal, can he hold it? Malaysia now goes out past Pakistan. There's a block going on from Portugal and New Zealand into turn one.
New Zealand still on the inside, trying to take the place away from Portugal, and Johnny Reid slides down the inside, locks a wheel, but that's great, but he's maybe got a bit wide on the exit. Can he get it in? Yes, he can.
That was what I was expecting to happen. Those two cars, Malaysia and Portugal, would get so absorbed in their battle, they would forget about Johnny Reid. Johnny Reid's now got ahead of Portugal. Alvaro Paren's trying to come back, coming into turn four. Alvaro Paren's car is the quickest car out of the...
Look how close he is.
Did he hit him or not?
Nearly. The front wing's still on there, though, so he presumably didn't actually touch the back of the New Zealand car, and Johnny locks up this time.
And you know, this car is engineered by Dave Luff, one of the guys I used to work with. Dave is 61 years of age. Don't tell me motorsport is a youth event. Nothing like having a couple of old-timers there working and getting your car working well.
Well, it's given a break for Malaysia, hasn't it? Because Alex Young's been able to just get a little bit of breathing space with these guys fighting as hard as they are behind. Wonderful racing here around the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez in Mexico City. A1GP putting on a show. The race lead being held by Great Britain. Second place USA. Third South Africa. Fourth place a lonely Italy. But then this wonderful race for fifth between Malaysia, Portugal, New Zealand, Australia not far behind, and then Germany gradually closing the gap too.
Yes, it's a very gradual closing by about a tenth of a second a lap. So young German Christian Vitoris really, either he's just conserving himself or he's conserving the car, but certainly not able to make any significant impression on this battle that's going on for fifth place, with Malaysia still controlling it. They've done so for the last 10 or 15 laps. Again, New Zealand looks down the inside. One of the things that Alex Young did is another battle going on side by side, the Czech Republic, and that's actually an overtaking for a lap. The Lebanon car going down a lap to the Czech Republic. Malaysia spent a lot of time in practice running in a low wing downforce setup, and that's what's helping them maintain their position. They don't have to be quick around the back of the circuit. They've just got to be quick on the straight.
Let's just look back. This is a replay. Oh, this was Malaysia.
Alex Young, what are you doing? Now, that was before the New Zealand car got past Portugal.
That's what led to them being side by side in Peraltada.
And no wonder, because the tires would be completely choked with the dust. Here we are back on board, and
I think that's...
that's a replay on board,
yep.
Yes. That's the shot from Perent's car.
So that's another look at it. That's what set that exciting incident up there. Malaysia making a minor mistake, and then, of course, there was a slower car involved. So Team Malaysia still in fifth place, but New Zealand in sixth position as Great Britain continues to lead with 17 laps to go now. Their advantage over the Team USA is still 3.8 seconds.
And this battle is going to become a five-way battle, because bit by bit Germany is working its way up to the tail. The gap is now actually down to just 1.5 seconds. The gap between first and second is just under 4 seconds. And Jonathan Somerton, I noticed as he comes past the pitch, he's actually getting lower and lower in the car. And I just wonder again, is it a young driver not accustomed to driving in these conditions, at this altitude, this temperature? Is it a matter of fatigue just becoming apparent? And the fact is that he's just sinking down in the car.
Brazil passed India on that lap. Don't know what happened, but Brazil just come through in 13th place. India has dropped to 14th position. They are lapping traffic. It might have caught Team India out somewhere there. Here we are on board with Jonathan Somerton. So impressed with this young man. because he's got relatively little experience compared to some of those he's racing against. It's only his second event as race driver for Team USA. He's been rookie driver several times, but he's looking very, very good here.
Should the final result be Great Britain, USA and South Africa, Oliver Jarvis is the old man of the top three, and what is he, 23 years of age?
That's right, he's 23, yeah. Real youngsters up there, potential podium finishers today. And for Rick Weininger, well, they've had one second place so far, has Team USA. That was that amazing event in Zandvoort when Phil Giebler did an outstanding job in tricky weather conditions. But in genuine dry weather pace on a race that has been unaffected really by safety cars, this is the best showing we've ever seen from Team USA.
It certainly is, and I mean, Jonathan Somerton runs the car right into the pit lane as he comes through turn 14. I don't know whether he's getting so low that might also be an issue that they want to look at, because he does gain an advantage in doing so, and the pit lane entrance is meant to be that. It is not meant to be considered a fully usable part of the racetrack.
South Africa in third, Italy a bit lonely in fourth. There was a good first few laps from Italy, a good pit stop, and they're holding fourth. This car of Team France has been lapped, so he's well down, and then he's still got this fifth place battle. Malaysia, New Zealand, Portugal, Australia, and look, Germany definitely closer.
Yeah, a little block up going in there for Portugal. China now slowly just getting involved in this battle, and that's drawing Indonesia and the Czech Republic here again.
This is India and Brazil again. India trying to get back down the inside. Karthikeyan makes the move on Junqueira, but he runs a touch wide. Junqueira can't get back at him.
He's got to try and make the switch back now. Junqueira's got the advantage in terms of track position, but Narayan Karthikeyan has got it all back into control. As we watch India and the battle again, lapped cars behind, Switzerland makes its way to the battle, three-way battle for 13th place with Brazil, India and Switzerland.
That's great fun, this, because you've got, here in Narayan Karthikeyan and Bruno Junqueira, two of the star drivers in A1GP in terms of what they've achieved in the past and their extensive racing experience, and they're having a fantastic ding-dong wheel-to-wheel race for what is 13th position.
Well, it's 13th position now. We've still got 16 laps to go. That's a lot of motor racing, and there will be a lot of very weary race drivers by the time they get to the end of this race. Remember, Narayan Karthikeyan is accustomed to driving long races, and his, of course, physical fitness is in tune with that distance. Again, driving in heat, not so much driving in altitude, but just the race stamina that you get from having a lot more experience. Let's look again and see the lockup coming into turn one. That's an unusual camera view. I haven't seen that one. And then the cut back with Brazil trying to get back, but India has got track position for turn two. It's not the ideal one, but it denies Brazil getting around. Here we see again another attack from New Zealand into turn one. Yeah, quick lap, I was just about to say, from Johnny Reid last time around, and it's closed him right up to the back of the Malaysian car once again. Team New Zealand running in sixth place currently. They want to close the gap on Team Germany in the outright points. Remember, there's a 30-point gap between the two nations. It's a huge gap, but without Nico Hülkenberg here this weekend for Team Germany, New Zealand were always looking at this as an opportunity to close the gap. It hasn't quite worked out as well as they had hoped, but maybe he can score another point by moving past the Malaysian car. Just we get some of those very tight shots looking into the driver cockpits, and a lot of drivers are suffering, I think, from a neck, just fatigue of the neck. The loads coming through the S's are just so high that it gets to a stage when you go through a left-hand corner, your head is leaning against the head and neck support in the cockpit, and it's there to protect you. It's also there to support your neck. They wind their way through this track, which runs through a municipal park here in Mexico City. We're on the east side of the city, but very much still in the heart of this huge town. Some 20 million people live here, and they're putting on a great display today, the nations in A1GP. Malaysia very high again in turn 14. Can they give Johnny Reid any advantage as he comes out of turn 14? Doesn't look like it to me. Just heard, John, that we may well see a Mexican car back out there. They've been given clearance to take the spare car out on circuit. Well, that will certainly bring a cheer to the Mexican fans of their team, and also Salvador Duran. You can see his eyes. I'm not sure he's actually quite as enthralled about going back out again, but when the car is able to run, it was a mechanical problem. The engineers from Zytec who run the A1GP engines have got it cured. It may have been a fuel pressure problem, it may just been something very simple. So this car looks like it might be coming back out. Well, this might give the fans something to cheer about. They looked so glum earlier when the car pulled into the pits and stopped, and it was clear that it wasn't going any further. Now, here's your race leader then. It is still Team Great Britain. He's maintained the gap at 3.5 seconds for lap after lap after lap. Team USA still very consistent. In fact, that was a good lap from Jonathan Somerton last time. Just 0.2 of a second faster than Team GBR.
And these are the future, these two guys of motorsport, perhaps not just in A1GP, because they've both showed what they can do on a tough track.
And I mean, I think we know Oliver Jarvis because of his experience in racing in Europe, but Jonathan Somerton is a relative newcomer to international motor racing and doing an absolutely magnificent job in second place, currently about 4 seconds, 3.5 seconds behind Team GBR. I suspect what's happening is on the pit wall, Team USA is saying, just continue what you're doing, it's absolutely fantastic, and take that second place.
Absolutely. Remember, he made a mistake in the latter stages of the Durban race, got a little bit carried away, and that will, of course, be prominent in his mind, but maybe sometimes you can learn from an error like that.
Interestingly, I spoke to one of the team members earlier in the weekend, and they said they felt that, in fact, the cause of that accident was much to do with the pressure that they were putting on Jonathan to push, when really he hadn't any gas in the tank to do it with. And so they sort of think that they were really, in part, the reason why he made that error.
Engineering for Team USA, looked after by WSR and Dick Bennett and his crew. Dick actually not here this weekend, so hopefully enjoying seeing the car running quite as competitively as it is, running in second position, some 3.5 seconds behind Great Britain. South Africa still in third place, but a little gap back to South Africa. That's 4.7 seconds behind this car. And then we've got Italy fourth, Malaysia fifth, New Zealand sixth, Portugal seventh, Australia 8th, Germany 9th, and Team China holding on to the final point scoring position in 10th place.
Just watch how low Jonathan Somerton gets coming through. He gets right there, he's in the pit lane, then he comes back out of it again. Whether that's considered fair or unfair at the minute, well, he's one of the teams under investigation. Whether that's the cause of the investigation is still not been made clear.
Watching the telemetry, listening to the engine as well as he goes through that fast right-hander leading on to start-finish. Watch it here up to 270 kilometres an hour, and then he's back onto the brakes. Let's get down to the pits and see what seat holder Rick Weininger thinks of this performance. Lee.
Same times each.
So he reckons they'll be all right, but there must be some nervous thoughts down there in the pit lane with that message still on our screens that USA are one of those nations under investigation by the stewards. But currently USA runs second place, GBR a race leader. Otherwise, the positions have stayed relatively steady over the last couple of laps. Certainly, South Africa still third, Italy fourth, Malaysia, New Zealand still behind Malaysia. The Black Beauty hasn't managed to find its way past. And here you are back with Portugal. And in fact, where's Malaysia? A bit further up the road.
Well, so I think Malaysia's seen them off. Alex Young has had the advantage where it counts at the end of the straight. And New Zealand and Portugal have had major attacks at Malaysia. But Alex Young, just remorseless, has worn them down, worn their tyres, used their cars, maybe overly used their cars. Alex Young, good top straight line speed. Careful around the back of the circuit, no pressure around the back of the circuit, and then get on it here at the exit of turn 14 and frustrate these two drivers and nations once again.
So back onto the straight. There was a big slide from Team New Zealand there as Portugal goes on the attack. Those nations under investigation, including USA, haven't really seen what's caused it. Could possibly be speeding in pit lane, of course, on the pit stop, but that would normally be coming through fairly quickly. So we'll wait to find out. Australia coming through there in 8th place, Germany 9th, and China in 10th.
And the gap now between Germany and Australia showing at 1.4 seconds, but it looked a bit closer than that to me as they came into turn 1. Brazil and India, they're still at it, having a battle for a position which is 13th, and Switzerland again just being drawn along by this battle over 13th place.
Yeah, it's great fun. Marcel Fassler joining in if he can, but he's not quite close enough to the back of the Brazilian car there to make a move, I don't think. It's still about Brazil versus India. Bruno Junqueira wanting to find his way back past Narain Karthikeyan, who had a slight lock-up but really didn't lose any time through it and maintained his line up through those top corners into that tight section, into the hairpin now. Possible to overtake there, but you have to be very committed and a little bit lucky, to be honest, to make it work. And it doesn't look as though Junqueira is going to make the attempt just there. So it's still Great Britain. We've got 10 laps to go now. Just 10 laps remain in the feature race. The gap 3.1 seconds last time around. So still USA keeping the pressure on.
And using power boost in the process. So that's a strong run from Team USA. And young Jonathan Somerton of Switzerland run again wide out, coming out of turn 13.
Yeah, but hopefully no problems as a result of that. Still India versus Brazil for 13th position out of Pedaltada. And this track, which has certainly impressed many of the drivers who've come here for the first time. Of course, Junqueira, the only driver amongst them who'd been here before. Although the track sometimes gets run in different formats. He's run the champ cars here. They sometimes used a twisty section inside the baseball stadium. And they've also used the chicane before Pedaltada, which slows the approach. But it's fun to see the track being run straight through into that sweeping right-hander, and it gives us an opportunity to see the drivers working a little harder through that corner than otherwise. I wonder what's happening at Team Mexico. We were expecting to see Salvador Duran come out in the spare car, but I see he's not in the car. India slowed down, and Brazil's gone past. Oh, India's got a problem.
Yes, coming out of turn 3. And we don't know whether that's a mechanical problem, whether it's a tyre problem. Certainly loss of pace for India. Or was it just simply he made an error coming through that sequence of corners? Or whatever it is, 2 places lost.
Oh, that's such a shame, because we were really enjoying the wheel-to-wheel between Brazil and India. There's something wrong with that car, surely. He's back right off here.
9 laps to go and 14 minutes and 3/4 of a minute remaining as India, once again, looks like whatever it was might have been down to the driver, because we didn't see anything obvious as they came through that sequence of corners, but he does look like he's back up to speed again.
The gap between the leaders came down to 2.7 seconds last time around. That's the closest we've seen it for a while.
Yeah, it was half a second to the advantage of USA. Jonathan Somerton used power boost coming down the straight, whether that contributed or not, but he certainly had a very strong lap at a 1:28.776.
The other little one to watch out for is just behind this group is China's closing on Germany. Germany did close up. As you can look in the background here, China very close to the German car.
In fact, the gap between Germany and Australia has opened up again, and that's in effect caused the China advantage or disadvantage to close down to the back of Germany. So again, immaturity from a driver who's only in his first senior race in a very powerful car on a difficult circuit. Could again just be simply driver fatigue, lack of concentration, and China now all over the back of Germany coming into turn 4.
Yeah, it does look as though Ho Pin Tung for China, who scored that wonderful podium finish in Australia earlier this season, really has got a chance of passing Germany. This would be to take 9th place, of course. India into the pits. I wonder if it's a puncture. They're certainly going for the wheel change.
Yes, they are just one tyre. No, they're doing the whole lot, so it's the left, front, right, front and rears as well. So they're taking the opportunity to put on a fresh, it looks almost like a brand new set of tyres. I'm not sure that's the case, but India go back out again, and of course there is a point for the fastest lap of the race, and that would currently go to the sprint race. That would have gone to Salvador Duran.
Yes, Team Mexico, that's right. And just to notice, amazingly, the top 2 just crossed the line, John. Their lap times together separated by just 0.04 of a second, not on track. What I'm saying is their lap time was only 0.04 of a second different between them, so their gap between first and second is still 2.7 seconds.
Well, I mean, it's been a stunning drive from both drivers, first and second. Jonathan Somerton in second for USA, Oliver Jarvis for Team GBR in the lead of this race. He's led the race from the point the lights went out, and he's run it in a measured and controlled pace. He's not really under particular pressure from USA. The lap times fluctuate a little bit, the gap runs up and down. Let's look and see who that was kicking up a big bunch of dust, and that's
Australia, was it?
It was way back down. That's a long way.
Oh, it's China.
China dropping away again and sideways. No wonder, again, the amount of car fully off the racetrack, and Indonesia will think, well, maybe we've got a chance of getting one more position.
So China's car sliding around. That's the view from the other angle.
And that's the last car in the top 10. That's the last point scoring position. So Indonesia would certainly like it there. The look and shaking the head on the China team in the pit lane, thinking, no, that's not good enough from Ho Pin Tung. We know what he can do. We don't expect him to do that.
So Great Britain leading. Still 8 laps to go. It'll be 7 as he crosses the line this time. The laps are ticking away. So's the time. 11 minutes and 45 seconds to go. Let's see what the gap is. First to second. Again, it's still 2.8 seconds. Their lap times virtually identical. Great Britain and Team USA.
And they're both pushing to their limits, because they're both lapping in the high 1 minute 28 seconds at a point in the race where they'd probably be happier lapping somewhere a second and a lap slower. India, what's going on?
Bit off-putting this for Team USA. He's running second, but he's got the Indian car on new tyres.
Absolutely.
Right behind him.
And that is something, in effect, India should not come into play at this stage. He should wait and make his pass, not here, not put pressure on. the young American driver. He's got the speed. He will have the benefit coming off turn 14, and he will probably be able to get past without too much trouble. But of course, well, he's dropped back, and then think maybe somebody has said, look, don't get involved. There's a race going on for the lead of this race. If you're going to make your pass, do it somewhere where it's easy and clean, and that would be at the end of the main straight.
Yeah, I think he's had that message or something, because he certainly backed off a bit. It would be a shame to sort of play a part in what is a tremendous battle going on between Great Britain and USA. It's a gap between them, sure, but the gap is just sort of yo-yoing around a little bit, seesawing between the two of them. Both of these young drivers driving with their hearts, which is only right here in Mexico, a country of passion, and both these guys are putting it on the line right now to try and win this race with just 6 laps to go as they come around this time.
Well, they're certainly driving with passion, but they're driving also with their heads, because that's the key to success at any race, is to drive with your head. Further down the field, that Germany challenge to Australia is dropping away. They're now 2.5 seconds behind, and China again will be right under the wing of Team Germany when they come onto the straight in just a second or so.
USA a bit closer that time around, 2.4 seconds the gap between them. A slightly faster lap from Team USA. Jonathan Somerton still not given up. There's the 3rd place car, Team South Africa, and then 4th place Team Italy. Let's get some news from pit lane with Simon Hill.
Suddenly there were some very, very anxious faces in the Team GB pit. Oliver Jarvis apparently radioed in saying he had a vibration and was concerned that he had a puncture. Immediately the boys got the tyre warmers ready to come off of the spare set of tyres, and everybody's got their helmets back on, ready to make a stop just in case. So we watched those times with tremendous interest.
Thanks, Simon. Now then, John, how much is that when you're leading a race and you're looking for your first win in a major category? You start to feel every vibration as if it's a major problem.
It is a nightmare, but I think part of the vibration could be that you use the brakes pretty hard on certain parts of the racetrack. You might just be getting a little bit of smearing or build-up on the brake disc, and you can get then a shimmy through the steering. Now, whether it's that or whether there's something more that's concerning Oliver Jarvis, but it's giving the opportunity to the Team USA, to Jonathan Somerton. In the last lap, he was 0.4 of a second quicker than Team GBR. The gap was 2.4 seconds as they came across the line at the end of 39 laps. This is the end of lap 40. The gap, well, it may well be reduced from 2.4, and it is 2.2.
Yeah, so he gained a bit. It was 2.1, sort of 2/3 the way around the lap. Jarvis just eked out another 10th on the last sector. So little to choose between them, but definitely USA has a slightly faster car.
And it's also scenting that there may be a problem. There may be something that GBR are uncomfortable with. And if Oliver Jarvis is having to go defensive, as we look and see what, and Nando Mikola gets it all wide sideways, and gets all that rubber on the racetrack.
He's running in 11th place. Team Indonesia just outside the points.
I think we're seeing USA is closing that gap, 2.2 seconds as they came across start-finish line on this, the 41st lap of 45 laps. So it is going to be a tighter finish than we had anticipated mid-distance. There's the look on the face. Robbie Kerr, who's been the incumbent, I don't know whether that's a look of angst or Robbie Kerr's just sort of thinking, please let our car win, because inevitably once a nation wins, it'll be more than one win that will come, and Robbie Kerr would love to win for Team GBR.
It's amazing when you look back at GBR in A1GP. Robbie Kerr was leading at Brands Hatch in the very first A1GP event that was held, and he looked in good shape to win that race, and they had a battery problem. And ever since then, they've had lots of second places, but they've never taken a victory. It's still pressure, though, here from Team USA, and Rick Weininger looking somewhat grim as he just urges Jonathan Somerton on to see whether they can pressurise for USA's first win. They've never won an A1GP race either.
It was 2.2, it's now just 2.1. I think it's back in control, but again, Jonathan Somerton is using his power boost button. That will give him a small advantage down the straight. He's got 2 shots remaining as they go into turn 1.
Yeah, and Team Pakistan just ahead, so there's a car to lap. It won't take them long to catch, and they should do it on the next straight.
Yeah, just as long as it's a question of, in the case of Oliver, all over steer for Jonathan Somerton coming out of turn 3. Oliver Jarvis does not want to catch the Pakistan car. Well, he is going to catch Pakistan car. He's going to catch it probably just coming into turn 6. Now, there will be wave blue flags for Pakistan. He must get out of the way. If he doesn't, then it's going to be a problem and he's not getting through into turn 6. Oliver Jarvis is going to get caught behind Pakistan unless Pakistan pulls out of the way. And let's see, he does. Well done, Pakistan. Well done, Noor Ali.
Yeah, Noor Ali does get out of the way. Doesn't hinder Oliver Jarvis too much. Great Britain continues to lead. Team USA had had that little slide a moment ago. It just cost him a tenth or so, and now he's got the job to lap the Pakistan car as well. He'll actually catch it in quite a good position.
Yes, he's going to catch it in the quicker part of the straight, coming now. Oh, it's not, in fact, to the advantage. Nur Ali, he's not blocking, but he's getting up. He got out of the way. And look at the buck on the bottom of the track. So he pulls in behind Team USA. I suspect the 2.1 advantage that Team GBR has enjoyed may eat out a little bit more to 2.2, 2.3 because of just catching traffic in a difficult part of the circuit.
There's some excitement down there in the pit lane. Oliver Jarvis now on the power boost button. He wants that little extra power boost.
It's not. In spite of that car, the Pakistan car, it's gone slightly again to the advantage of Team USA.
Oh, it's amazing. The gap being held by Jarvis at the moment for Team GBR. India, meanwhile, back out on track, of course, also going through, but running down in 18th position. Remember, third place is South Africa. They're not really a part of this lead battle because South Africa's 7.1 seconds behind USA. Italy 4th, Malaysia 5th, New Zealand 6th, Portugal 7th, ahead of Australia, Germany and China. Those are how the top 10 look at the moment. We're still focusing, though, on this wonderful race between Great Britain and the United States.
And focus right now on the man in second place, challenging for the lead. 2 seconds literally is the gap between first and second place. We have 3 laps to go, and France is in. There's a tyre change, probably just to give him a nicer run to the end. I can't frankly see the point unless he did have a puncture, which of course is possible with the amount of debris that we did get on the track after the sprint race.
A lap down, he's running in 19th place. Jean-Carl Vernet makes his way back out once again. He may well get another chance. I'm not sure Loic Duval is going to be available for the remaining rounds of A1GP for the French team. So the youngster, we may well see him again, perhaps in Shanghai and perhaps at Brands Hatch at the final race of the season. Well, I tell you what, if Great Britain can hold on to this, then it's going to boost the crowd at Brands, because we'll want to see what he can do. But Team USA, you know, this is such a strong performance from Jonathan Somerton, and he's closer.
Another 0.4 of a second shaved off the advantage. 2 laps to go, and again neither on power boost at the present time.
Well, what a race we still have on here. He's just gradually closing up. You know, Jonathan Somerton's parents come from Blackpool, but he's very much an American, brought up in the United States. He's got a very American attitude to life, and that's his style of living, and he's really pushing for his home nation now. This is virtually his home race, if you like. It's as close as we get to racing in the USA this time, and he's making it work for him.
Well, by gum, lad, he's done a great job.
He certainly has, but is he going to run out of time? Because Jarvis seems to be just trying to pace himself at the moment. You can see the anxiety down there in the British pit.
Well, I mean, there's tension at both these garages, Team GB and Team USA. Jonathan Somerton has carved away that advantage that he had to 3 seconds, or 3.3 seconds at one point, down to 1.6 seconds with literally 1.5 laps of this race remaining.
Let's see what the split says in terms of 1.7 again. So Jarvis has just eased it out again. Great Britain a fraction further ahead than they were last time around. And when they come around after the next corner, they'll be going on to their final lap.
The advantage that Somerton enjoys is in this final turn 14. Look how low he gets in the corner. That is, I believe, giving him the advantage off the corner. But round the other parts of the circuit, it seems to be more towards Team GBR. 1.6 seconds when they came across on the last lap. 1.4, a big ask. If he can do it, it'll be outstanding. I think Oliver Jarvis is in control of this race.
But it's the last lap of the race. Great Britain are looking for their first ever win in A1GP, but so is Team USA. This is the best race ever from Team USA. Despite having a second place finish earlier this year, on performance they've shown consistency throughout this weekend, and they have not given up. The youngster Jonathan Somerton still pushing, but another youngster, Oliver Jarvis, who was runner-up in the British Formula 3 Championship last year, he's controlling himself. He's making no mistakes as yet, and so far he's maintaining a 1.3 second advantage.
Well, I mean, the gap has closed by 1/10 of a second in the first half of this final lap. Oliver Jarvis really all he has to do is guide this car home cleanly, not be affected by the pressure, the attack from Team USA. Stay on the racing line. There is no way whatsoever that USA can get past until they would get onto the main straight, and the advantage is clearly with the Team USA.
What a performance this is from Team GBR on the track that Jim Clark won the first ever Mexican Grand Prix back in 1963. On the track where team principal John Surtees took his World Championship win in 1964 and won again here in 1966. It's going to be the first ever win for Team GBR in A1GP World Cup of Motorsport. Oliver Jarvis takes victory for Great Britain. The USA has a fantastic run to take second place, and South Africa will come through to take third.
Well, it's an outstanding drive from two outstanding young drivers, but the victory, and ironically Robbie Kerr, the incumbent driver for so long, denied victory, has to turn around and say, well, fantastic, we've won. We've got the monkey off our back. It's taken us almost 2 seasons to do so. And congratulations to everybody in Team GBR and also to Team USA. Jonathan Somerton, a young 18-year-old driver, 18 years old, pushing Jarvis all the way to take second place, just 1.1 second. Well, in fact, at the end it was 0.68 of a second.
A wonderful race then. Great Britain the winner from USA and South Africa. Italy in 4th, Malaysia 5th, New Zealand finish in 6th place. Portugal takes 7th, Australia 8th, Germany 9th, and China in 10th place. Indonesia 11th, then the Czech Republic and Brazil. What a result for Great Britain. Robbie Kerr, who was leading the race, the first ever race at Brands Hatch. He's had to watch today, but let's hear from him. How does he feel about it? And that was Katie Clements, daughter of Tony Clements, the seat holder for Team GBR. And Tony here for Tony not here, I'm afraid, this weekend, so he's missed his opportunity to see Great Britain take the win. John Surtees not here this weekend either, but it doesn't affect the result. Oliver Jarvis has taken victory, and 15 years after Nigel Mansell won the last Formula One Grand Prix to be held here in Mexico City, A1GP has seen a British winner in Oliver Jarvis, and he just drove that race to perfection. A beautiful start off the line. His team, of course, did an amazing job in the pit stop as well. It was one of the fastest pit stops that we saw all afternoon, and he used that to perfection, looked after his tyres, and despite that very early pit stop that he made, the tyres did look after him as well, and it allowed him to maintain his advantage. Perhaps that was why he had a vibration towards the end. They'd done a lot of laps. But what about USA? Second place for Team USA with this youngster, Jonathan Somerton, in only his second event in A1GP. Both Jarvis and Somerton only have competed in 2 events, and they've come through first and second here today. And of course, Team USA also running some new sponsorship this weekend. Their guests enjoying seeing the car go so well, I'm sure, because Jonathan Somerton has done them proud. And third place to Team South Africa. Let's not forget Adrian Zaug's strong performance here today. Adrian has been through the mill a little bit this winter in Europe because he's had to have an operation on his arms. He's still not back to full strength. This has been a hard physical circuit, and yet Zaug made no mistakes to bring Vulindlela home in third place. And so South Africa have cause to celebrate. But for Ollie Jarvis, he will remember this moment for a long, long time to come. The 23-year-old from Cambridgeshire, his father, a keen racer himself, he will be just so delighted to see this. They've worked hard, they've sacrificed a lot to get here. And Oliver Jarvis has taken the first win for Great Britain in A1GP. Well, he's still got the helmet on. He's come over to congratulate Jonathan Somerton. But that's the moment he wanted to share with his mechanics, with the crew who got that wheel change done so rapidly and got him back on track and allowed him to maintain his advantage. It really was a team effort here today by Team GBR. On so many occasions they've been out in front, but it hasn't quite worked. That's a nice touch. Mexico car back out on circuit. Salvador Duran at least getting a little chance to wave the flag for Mexico and for the fans who have supported him here so loyally this weekend. There is such passion for motorsport in this country, and it's such a shame that Salvador Duran wasn't able to show them quite what he can do. He's been a race winner in the past. He knows how it feels. great double victory in Laguna Seca last year for Salvador Duran. And there's Adrian Zaug also receiving congratulations from the South African crew. That was a heroic performance, knowing, as we do, how tough he's been finding it physically just to get back up to arm strength with the operation that he's had just recently. But he held on tight. And there's Tony Texera to congratulate them. Well, that's a very special moment for Adrian. Jonathan Somerton there, I don't think he can quite believe his second place finish. And receiving the congratulations from Paul Anthony of Team GBR. They knew they were under pressure, though, GBR there. They could not relax for a single moment in the final stages. The result of the 9th event of A1GP World Cup of Motorsport. The win for Great Britain. USA in 2nd place, South Africa 3rd. Italy 4th, ahead of Malaysia in 5th place, with New Zealand 6th and Portugal 7th. Australia finished in 8th, Germany in 9th, and China took 10th place, courtesy of Ho Pin Tung. 11th place just outside the points for Indonesia, then the Czech Republic in 12th, Brazil 13th, Switzerland 14th, Canada 15th, then Ireland, the Netherlands, India, Lebanon, France, Pakistan and Mexico. And the fastest lap to the USA. Well, there was the moment that Oliver Jarvis could celebrate the win. Look how close the United States car was, but Jarvis just controlled it beautifully in the closing stages. We'll have to find out whether he had any particular problems with the car. The gap was narrowing lap by lap, but he did everything perfectly right this weekend. Qualifying he was a little disappointed with. He felt he could have done better, but it was the first time he'd used the new tyres in quite that way. And that was the moment where he could really celebrate. We've got more to see of that, of course, because the podium celebrations are coming up pretty soon. And that's going to be a very, very special moment for the whole team and for Ollie in particular. He has certainly shown tremendous composure this weekend. And he's come home with the goods. The first win for Team GBR. Glad to see the drivers have got their flags with them. And the Stars and Stripes are back on the podium as well for the second time this season. But it's the youngster Jonathan Somerton who drove his heart out after crashing last time out in Durban. What a way to come back. And Adrian Zaug, who had such a disappointing time on home soil in Durban last time out, well, he has come back well, hasn't he? He was in a similar position to Mexico, really. They got the car out at the end of the race just to give the fans something to cheer about. But he's now to have the bronze medal from Joe Ramirez, sports advisor to Team Mexico, but of course known for many, many years as his role as coordinator for Team McLaren. The trophy there for Adrian for 3rd place. And then the 2nd place medal, of course, as well, to be received by Jonathan Somerton. Big thumbs up, a big smile. Well, Jonathan's only 18 years old himself. He was 3rd in the rookie class of the Euro F3 Championship last year. Really remarkable what he's done as a rookie driver, and now coming in to take over the race seat. Big trophy for him to take home back to the States. But the gold medal, of course, heading the way of Oliver Jarvis for Team GBR. Paul Bellringer in the middle there, team manager. Well, he said to me so many times, when are we going to get this monkey off our back? They've done it this time. And there's the big trophy for Oliver Jarvis. There, Paul Bellringer with the shades on. This is going to be such a special moment to him. They have worked so hard, this team. A team that's been really put together by John Surtees and Tony Clements. And it's time for the national anthem. Such a special moment for Oliver Jarvis. And for Team GBR, and it's going to be a very, very enjoyable champagne spray. The phone, no, he's dropped the champagne. Would you believe it? He can control a 500 horsepower racing car, but he can't control a bottle of champagne. Well, and poor old Jonathan Sumpton, I don't think he's got the cork out of his bottle yet. He can't get the cork. He's probably broken the cork, and now they can't get the champagne out. Well, it's all gone wrong on the podium. And I think it's only Adrian Zaug who's actually managed to have some success with the champagne. But never mind.